Thank you, everyone, and welcome. The first thing we just like to start with is, because we do have a tight schedule of presentations, is to honestly thank our 2021-2022 SpEdPAC board members. And Sandy, if you can share the list of board members, and just want to thank them and appreciate, thank you and appreciate for all the meetings that they have attended and advocacy and just support this school year along with us. We will be having elections this year, so at the end of the meeting, and individuals have to be present at the meeting to be welcome. But every member on here has contributed, and we just want to say thank you and encourage people to think about signing up, or if you have any questions you want to throw in the chat. But we will have someone from the Office of Engagement, Noel Green, here at the end to assist with the election process. So all SpEdPAC families are welcome to join the board and run for election. And thank you for those who have done it and may decide to continue for this upcoming school year. Thank you for sharing that, Sandy. And on another note, just want to make note that if there's a concern that you have specific for your child, we do have obviously BPS representatives from the Office of Special Education on the call. We can create a breakout room if you have a child-specific problem for one of the assistant directors to go in with you and to assist you with a specific concern. You can put that in the chat and we'll arrange it so that you can resolve any issues that you may have, because we have a couple of different assistant directors on the call tonight. I will forego the introduction of the different assistant directors just because of time with the presentations that we have tonight and the elections that we do have to get to. But you will meet many, you will see them again because they will also be doing presentations this evening. But you're more than welcome. If they are not your assistant director, they can either look up your case, answer the question, or refer you to the correct contact person. But there is help available from BPS directly. And as Sandy's mentioned, there is the self-nomination form that she'll put in the chat, where if you're thinking about running for a board member, an alternate board member, or an executive officer position, please feel free to put it in the chat. So it'll just streamline the process a little bit faster, because we'll have those who've chosen to whether self-nominate. Unless the person you want to nominate has confirmed they want to be nominated, I would just recommend you check with that person. If you're like, I think they would be great, please just check in with them to make sure it's something they can do for this upcoming school year. Because as we all know, we have different situations, and as much as we want to help, sometimes we just can't at certain periods in time. And with that said, just a final reminder before our first speaker that we want to just check the pace, make sure that we're speaking at a pace that our interpreters can do their professional interpretation with, and our families who are neurodiverse can process the information. So once again, thank you, welcome. And the first speaker that I'm going to introduce is going to be speaking about extended school year. So Lauren Shannon will begin the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lauren Shannon. I'm one of the assistant directors for special education. I work with the schools in regions 3 and 7. But if you have any questions at all, I work with the K-8 schools, and I'm happy to connect you with the right person to get your questions answered. And I'm going to be talking about ESY. Okay, so for this summer, ESY is a 5-week, 5-day, 5-hour summer program. Unless you're with the STRIVE program is 6 weeks. It is for students with IEPs and disabilities that have been identified as substantially at risk or at risk for substantial regression over the summer. The program for most of the sites starts on July 11th and ends August 12th. Our program at both the Horseman and the Carter is starting on July 5th and then ending a week earlier. So it will end on August 6th. And we have 14 sites this summer. So how do we determine eligibility for ESY? It's an IEP team decision. They look at breaks in service, so even long weekends, vacation weeks, to see if students are losing skills or regressing on skills during the break period. And then also looking at the time that it takes them to recoup those skills once they return back to school. We also take into account students' learning rate. Here are some other criteria that can be considered. We're looking at the degree of the impairment, rate of progress, specific behavior problems or physical problems, availability of resources or alternative resources, not our own resources, the child's ability to interact with non-disabled children, the specific curricular areas in which the child needs continuing attention, voc and transition needs, and whether the service is extraordinary. And these are all taken from DESE. Here is just a breakdown of each of the sites. We have got a lot of questions this year so far asking for site changes. And a lot of families are asking about being able to switch to the Carter and Horseman, I think because the dates are a little different than our traditional sites. But so the Carter and the Horseman typically only have students that attend that program during the school year. So if anyone is wondering about that, unless the child attends that school during the year, it wouldn't be an option for the summer. We're also continuing to fulfill CCS agreements that have not been fulfilled during the school year. This is just a list of sites. This can all also be found on the OSE website. On the ESY page, we have a ton of information, a lot of frequently asked questions. The site information is all up there. All of the site coordinators have been identified. The only thing you won't be able to find on there yet are the site coordinators' cell phone numbers because they haven't been assigned yet, but they're all very active on email. So if there are any site-specific questions, these are the people you want to reach out to. All services this summer are going to be provided in person, so no hybrid model. The students can attend in person for their full ESY program. They can attend only for specific services throughout the day. If students, for example, only attend for rules-based reading, but they need transportation, they will have the option to attend for the full day so that they can get that rules-based reading service. And then students can also attend in person for COVID compensatory services. The Fravel link is up. It has been translated, I think, into 10 languages on our website. So you need the student's last name, ID number, and date of birth. Any students that have two last names or a hyphenated last name, the name can just be entered as one word. So you can just put the two last names together and enter it that way. That has been tripping some people up. And still, if anyone needs any help at all, they can reach out to the ESY at Boston Public Schools email anytime for some help. Here are all of the languages it's been translated into. And also, if for any reason families decide that they're going to attend ESY and then something changes with their plans for the summer, you can just simply resubmit the Fravel RSVP to say whether or not they're coming or not coming. And the same for if they had initially responded that they weren't going to attend this summer. Transportation stays the same from what students have during the school year. Students who are not getting any specialized transportation will still have access to a T-Pass from the summer. The letters from transportation telling you the bus assignment and the times for the bus should come out toward the last week of June. A very important thing is to make sure your address is correct, especially if for whatever reason people haven't used the bus during the school year. We want to make sure that the bus is coming to the correct address. Address changes can be done at your closest welcome center. They are still asking that you make an appointment ahead of time. And also, if families decide to opt out of transportation for the summer, they can go through our transportation link to submit a ticket to opt out so that the bus won't come to the school or to the house every day if you don't want it to. And there's some step-by-step guidance in these slides that we'll share. And again, if you need help with it, you can always reach out to our website again in the ESY email. All right, so this slide is just more about scheduling an appointment with our welcome centers. You can book them online. I believe they're still doing virtual appointments as well. And a very important thing to note that if you have an alternate bus drop-off during the school year, that it will not be active for ESY. Okay, this is a list of all the documents you need. When you make an appointment for the Welcome Center. This is how you can get more information about transportation as ESY gets closer. And also if you have any other questions, even for the school year. All sites, students will receive breakfast and lunch. Some of the sites are summer meal sites. The hours for the summer meal sites are going to be scheduled around the time the students that are in programs in the schools, so they're not going to overlap. So the summer meal sites will be open after our students have lunch.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Really appreciate that information. We're going to invite individuals to raise their hands for a couple of questions. I know, Lauren, you may have noticed that one of the questions being, as you were talking about services, that students that may be assigned services could just come for the services. And the question was asked because an example was rules-based reading. It was asked to define what is the rules-based reading that is available in ESY. Please describe what that actually is.
Sure. So we have teachers that are hired specifically for rules-based reading. It would still be a service that students receive during the school year, and it would be found in the service delivery grid. If students only have rules-based reading, the teacher would reach out to the family the week before the program starts to schedule a time to bring them to the school to get that service.
Thank you. And there are a few questions about assignments, when people should have received their notification letters, and the Lower Henderson not being a placement site since the HVAC was the reason they weren't before. Are you able to address those concerns regarding that building not being utilized? And then also notification processes if families should have received it or when they should expect it?
Yeah, so notification is a little easier. Some of them for ESY transportation has already been making calls. When families fill out the RSVP, they'll get all of the student site information in the RSVP. And if there are any issues at all getting through with that RSVP, we can always help with that. Roxy, what was the other question?
The building specific, the Henderson Lower,
Henderson.
HVAC was the reason they couldn't before. So they asked why not? So why aren't they if that issue's been fixed?
You know what, I can't speak to that. I guess I can definitely find out the
So
answer.
you can follow up. Okay, if you can follow up, because we're
with that.
pulling the questions from the chat too. And
Yep,
if you can follow up, any that you can't answer, we won't get to all of them, but because you're going to be here, if you could reply to everyone in the chat, that helps us all receive the information from the questions too, which is really useful. I'm going to go to the hands right after one more question, which is, I just want to know, because it wasn't mentioned here, but at school committee last night, Denise Snyder from Engagement mentioned that any family, whether they had ESY in their IEP or not, could just participate in ESY if they wanted to. But I noticed you didn't include information about that here. Is there, what is your understanding of that?
I do not have an understanding of that right now. So that would be something else that I would have to follow up on.
Okay, so yeah, you can re-watch the video from school committee last night. And if you could check in and get us that answer, because that is what the information was shared, that along with summer program to make sure everyone has access, any special ed student could participate this particular school year. So that's going to be a very important question to be able to follow up with, please. I'm going to start with iPhone moms and ask you to unmute.
Unmute, okay. Hi. So what is the deadline to sign up for ESY?
So there is no deadline. We do ask that people RSVP as soon as possible, especially where transportation is involved. I think everyone knows it takes about 2 weeks to make sure that we get the students routed to the school. So the sooner the better.
Okay.
But people can still, like throughout the summer, we often have students that maybe went to camp and then the camp ended or things like that, and they'll end up joining the program midway through.
And next, we're going to go with Terry.
Hi, my question was, do they need to have an academic issue in order to participate in ESY? My daughter doesn't have any academic disabilities right now, but I do know that it does affect her schoolwork. She doesn't have any learning disabilities, it's just more behavioral, and I'm trying to get her to participate in ESY. So is it just specific for academic disabilities?
It doesn't have to just be academic. As long as the student has an IEP that says that they require a longer year, they would be able to participate.
Thank you. Next, we're going to move to Bethany.
Hello, thank you. Two quick questions. One is who specifically do we reach out to set up services only for ESY? And the other question is, you mentioned that you'll be doing CCS over the summer. We're still having a real hard time at our school figuring out who sets up the CCS hours. The COAS isn't sure, and the special ed director isn't sure. So who should they be reaching out to work out the CCS hours?
So for the CCS hours, you should already have a CCS agreement.
We have an agreement, but my daughter needs more hours. So who do we talk to? They don't, the two people that I deal with at the school don't know how to have more hours.
Bethany, I only interrupt to note that Heidi, as the AD for that school, has said in the email, in the chat, that you can email her regarding CCS.
Perfect, thank you.
Perfect.
And then the other question was who to reach out to directly for services only for ESY.
So once you RSVP that your child is going to attend, the service provider will reach out to you.
Okay.
Oh, I just lost the sound for you.
We've waited in the past extraordinarily long times for the service provider to reach out to us, like days before service is supposed to start. So is there a person that we can reach out to?
You could definitely reach out to the ESY email, and also Heidi could help with that as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And if I could just, and Kelly, I'm going to be asking you to unmute. If I could just ask a question before then relate to Bethany's. I understand they can email the ESY at Boston Public. That's not a person, right? That's a generic email. So if families don't get a response, I think the question she was asking was related to that live person. Who in particular, if like you don't hear back from the email and you're not getting a response, is there a particular person for ESY that you can reach out to?
Yeah, they can reach out to me. I'm the one who's answering the ESY emails. Joshi and Janet in the office are also supporting, responding to some of those emails. So, yeah.
So that's helpful.
But also
Thank
just
you.
email me directly.
Kelly, go ahead.
Yes, hi, good evening. So how do I get the RSVP so I can respond to to the assignment. I was notified by the bus company that she was assigned to a site, but I haven't received any notification regarding her assignment. And also, she has a one-to-one working with her as well. So I need to like notify her as well of her placement and make sure that is the time and the dates line up to our vacation schedule.
So Kelly, we'll drop the link to RSVP right into the chat. So that should give you all of the information about the sites and times. And if for any reason you have a problem with where the site is or anything like that, we can work with you to identify a site that would work better.
Thank you. And Oracion, I'm asking you to unmute, and then Lauren will continue to support by answering questions in the chat. And we will transition to Marcia to talk about transition, but Oracion, go ahead, please. You're unmuted, but I don't hear anything. Is the individual on the English channel or are you using an interpretation channel? And just a question to the interpreters too, if anyone on your channels have questions, please also let us know so we can make sure those questions are answered. All right, so if you want to put it in the chat, and then we see there's a question in the chat also that is written in, I believe, in Spanish. So if someone would like to translate that into English so that someone can answer it too, that'd be useful.
Roxy, I'm going to answer it in the chat. It's just how to change their address.
Okay.
Information for the Welcome Center.
Thank you, Yash. That's very helpful. And I guess, well, the last one then will be WD.
Good evening. Hi, Mrs. Shannon.
Hi.
Having worked with you as my child's secondary teacher, I know this is near and dear to your heart, and I'm so happy that you're on this call to help with my, with families, like for me, my younger child. So it's awesome, just in terms of community, to see you again. My question is regarding what the young lady Roxy said about ESY for families beyond the IEP and, beyond identified delays or issues. Because because I was there in this school committee meeting last night. And so I wanted to know from you personally, as a mom, is this going to be helpful, especially post-COVID, when we're looking at retention? Is this something that I should be looking at for my younger child for retention as opposed to a summer camp in terms of the social emotional? And my second question was regarding CCS. If your child is in a facility, would you be the person to speak with to ensure that they are receiving the services in coordination with, say, that tuition, the out of city tuition institution or facility?
And I just want to note that Heidi is also another assistant director as adding support with Lauren, and she says she has an answer to part of that question about the summer programming. So I'm asking Heidi to unmute to be able to share that.
So let Lauren answer that question first, and then I have a question. I have a response to what Ms. Snyder said last night on school committee, just for clarity.
So Akila, ESY doesn't really have anything to do with whether or not the student will move on to the next grade. That would be a whole separate conversation outside of the IEP process.
No, it would be elective. She doesn't have an IEP and it would be elective. And again, my concern is retention.
You know what, I think it might be best to talk offline specifically about your student. Does that work for you?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful if you connect offline, just because and at school committee, they did discuss ESY, but also retention programs and other summer programming. So that I think that'll be helpful to connect those resources. And Heidi, you wanted to add to the question also?
Yes, so I just wanted to update on the difference between summer academies and ESY. And I apologize if it was miscommunicated last night at school committee, but ESY is for students with the service in their IEP. If parents are concerned about regression, please reach out to your COS or your AD to convene those teams to talk about whether the student would experience regression and need ESY. And then they have summer academies to support students with other grade level learning standards over the summer.
Thank you, Heidi. I would just say that as someone who's aware of the difference between ESY and summer academies, I want to be clear what was stated last night, specifically and clearly, was that any special education child who does not typically have extended school year in their IEP can request it and will receive it, is what was stated last night to school committee in front of the superintendent and everyone else, and no one corrected it. So that's the information that was shared out to our families.
Okay, I will
and
follow
it's
up
there.
on that, Roxy,
Thank
and
you.
we will make sure we get a message out.
Thank you. So we are going to need to transition to Marcia. Please put the questions in the chat. And like I stated, if you want to break out room with one of the ADs or a particular one, or you just like, I need to check in, I need them to pull up my child's situation, please let us know that, and we can put you in a room with an AD to get some questions answered. So, and Lauren is going to continue to answer the questions, and the ADs will support her in the chat too, so that we can have the Q&A pulled together to make sure we all have the same answers. So thank you. So next I'm going to transition to the Assistant Director of Transition, Marcia Fitzpatrick. So thank you.
Thanks, Roxy. Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to be here to present on transition in the Boston Public Schools. So, okay. So, transition services in the Boston Public Schools. So transition in the state of Massachusetts is the time that when students with disabilities turn 14 or earlier, if an IEP team determines, begin to think about and really talk about the skills they need in order to be able to access life after high school. Transition services defined by IDEA are a coordinated set of activities designed to be within a results-oriented process. And this results-oriented process is meant to facilitate your child's movement from school to post-school life. We want to make sure that we're providing the necessary transition services, and that when we're creating transition plans for students, they are unique to each individual student's needs. So the coordinated set of activities is the collaboration between the schools and the families. And when we think about the coordinated set of activities, we really want to think about what are the students' preferences and interests. We want to think about instruction, related services, community experiences, the development of employment and other post-school adult living objectives, as well as the acquisition of daily living skills, and when needed, a functional vocational evaluation. So instruction is a broad range of activities. So instruction covers everything from ELA, being able to write an essay so that I can apply to college, to functional math so I can balance a checkbook. We want to be thinking about instruction as that set of activities that is enabling our children to be literate, so that when they go into the adult world, they can perform daily living skills. So when we have students who need more targeted daily living skills, we want to be thinking about self-care, money management, and transportation. Related services are occupational therapy, speech, assistive technology, and these are the services that we want to be working with to support our students in thinking about more integrated work, education, and living environments. So when a student between age 14 and 22 is working with their related service providers, we want the related service providers to be helping students connect to related services that they require beyond high school. How do they find the appropriate agency to provide the services? How can a student access the services and support students and their families in making the connections to those adult services prior to exiting high school? Community experiences are the activities that take students out of the school building to really move around the community and perform daily living activities. We want to be thinking about using the MBTA, shopping for food or clothing, recreation and leisure. We're really focusing a lot on recreation and leisure this year, as well as job shadowing, internships, and trying to create more work experiences, as well as college exploration. Development of employment skills. We want to be working with our students to develop job seeking and keeping skills. We want to support our students in career exploration opportunities, skills training, and employment. Adult living objectives are the services that we do. We all do these services, but we don't do them every day. So these are sometimes we need to go to an employment support agency, register to vote, file our taxes, rent an apartment or a home, access medical services, or talk to our insurance to make sure that a medical visit is covered. These are also when we want to go to adult services, the disability office at college, and Social Security income. So those are activities that we all do within our lives, but we don't do them daily. So when appropriate, we want to be focusing on daily living skills. And these are grooming, being able to prepare a meal, budgeting, maintaining a home, paying bills, and caring for our clothes, whether we go do laundry or we go to a dry cleaner. A functional vocational evaluation is situational. So in the Boston Public Schools, when we have students out at a work site, we do a Massachusetts work-based learning plan. And what that is it's a set of skills that are listed, which are basic employment skills. And then you choose job-specific skills and you rate the student early in the internship and then mid-internship, and then at the end of the internship to monitor their growth. So these we use mostly over at our Wentworth training program, our project search sites, and our summer programming. So the majority of instructional and related service activities are school-based, and the Office of Special Education provides supports through a variety of vendors and partnerships that are overseen by the SPEDPAC department. And what that means is many of our students are able to go through their academic requirements and then move up into some school-based activities, pre-vocational activities. And then we often have students who might need a little more attention in like focusing on working on their job skills so that they can find a job area that they really like or be able to create a resume. So we have partnerships with like JVS, Partners for Youth with Disabilities, and like Work Opportunities Unlimited to support our students in being able to get out into the community and actually actively seek employment. So the SPEDPAC department, which I am very privileged to lead, consists of 7 community connections facilitators, 3 community field coordinators who provide support at our work sites, and 1 educational coach who supports our Macy program at MassArt. The SPEDPAC community connections facilitators serve as liaisons between students and their families and our outside agencies. They provide specialized transition supports to teachers and schools based on individual classroom and student needs. So during the school year, again, we have partnerships and training sites, and we work with Triangle to do impactability, which is, you know, they teaches children how to be self-awareness, self-defense, sexual health, healthy relationships. We have Best Buddies, which is a you know, peer relationship, so students are interacting with their non-disabled peers. Young Entrepreneurs, which is through PYD. That is a career readiness curriculum that we have in many of our schools. We work with the MBTA on travel training. We have MRC Priettes. We hope that many of your high school aged children are participating in Priettes programming. One of the most exciting partnerships that we started this year is Green City Growers. We have gardens across the city. Triangle, again, does culinary programming for us. And You're With Us provides peer mentors so that our students can participate in activities on college campuses. And You're With Us generally use their relationship is mostly with Northeastern University. During the school year, we have digital imaging at English High School. We have the Wentworth training program, which has everything from landscaping to recycling to maintenance. We have many students go through Wentworth during the course of the year. The Tobin Center is recycling. We have students that work at the Animal Rescue League. The Roach Ice Rink is a collaboration between the Berg and the Roach Ice Rink. We have students who go to transitions to work at Goodwill. We have Project Search, which is at New England Baptist, as well as the Spalding Rehab. Project Reach is at Gillette World Trade Shaving Headquarters in South Boston. We haven't been able to reopen this year, but I'm hoping that we'll get students back there next year. And again, JVS. For our post-secondary education options, we have a thriving program at Mass Art. Macy, it's highly sought after. Students are really successful. They're having a wonderful time over there. Mass Art has been really welcoming, and that's just a great opportunity for a lot of our students. We have dual enrollment opportunities at Benjamin Franklin and Bunker Hill, and looking forward to next year, hopefully Macy at Bunker Hill starting again. And hopefully, I'm hoping that spring of 23, we will be back on the UMass campus. We weren't able to secure an ed coach for the fall. So I'm hoping that we will have students back over there for the spring. And then my favorite time of year is the summer. Our summer programming, and our summer programming is for students who have completed their academic requirement, which means that they've met their local graduation requirement, as well as completed their MCAS, whether it's an ALT assessment or they've taken the standard test. So sometimes we have students and they're not really ready to work yet. So last summer, we created the transition skills classes. And again, the students have met their academic requirements. They're still going to work on functional academics because we all need to make sure that we're able to balance that checkbook. We want our students out doing community access. So last year, students went to the zoo. One teacher took the kids to McDonald's just to be on the MBTA. Another group of students went downtown to go shopping on the Silver Line because we're at Madison Park. And another class tried to just find the activities that they could get on the MBTA, take the students, even just take them for a walk and bring them back. And they didn't do that every day, but that was kind of weaved through the program as a community-based experience opportunity. And then again, with
Marcia, I just want to give you a time warning to,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, Roxy, how many minutes?
One, but
1
you know,
minute. Okay.
you summarize.
Okay, so we are just, our summer program is very sought after. We have wonderful programming. We look forward to returning to Madison this summer and have as many students as possible. We get to pay some students, and transition in Boston is really opening up. It's been like the last couple of years have been tough because we've not been able to really re-engage in the community, but we're starting partnerships like daily. I have the Boston Athletic Association, and today I met with para rowing over on the Charles River. Like every day we're trying to create partnerships to get our students out into the community so that they're having real community-based transition opportunities, so that when they are ready to enter the adult world, they really do have a solid base of skills and they can, you know, reach their maximum potential. And that's what our goal is. So how was that for a summary, Roxy?
That was a great campaign. Absolutely. So I see one hand up. So Linda, I will ask you to unmute. Linda, do you see the prompt to unmute?
Good evening. I'm trying to find out how I add extended stay for the children as it wasn't put on the IEP.
Well, that's for extended school year. We could stick you in the breakout room, Linda. They're actually answering questions about that. Would you like us to add you there?
Yes.
And Jack?
Hi, Ms. Fitzpatrick. How are you?
Hi, Jack. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I can attest to the value of the Strive program in particular over at Madison Park. My son did it last summer, and it is still paying dividends. I had two questions. I don't know if you're going to have time to address them. One is pretty quick. My son graduated at age 21 from Madison Park because he was so done. He's done. But these expanded Macy programs sound fantastic. And I didn't know what the policy was now about including students who have actually graduated. Because traditionally, once you've graduated and you're not 20, he's not 22 yet. BPS doesn't have that responsibility anymore. But on a larger question here, Ms. Fitzpatrick, are you able to address how BPS can help families segue to DDS and DMH supports programmatically, how families can move their kids from the supports that BPS provides versus what the state's going to be providing post 22? Thank you.
So that is why you worked with the fabulous Diane Campbell to work with you to ensure that you had your 688 was completed and your DDS application was completed. So do you want me to tell you like the difference between the supports from when they leave high school? Or so basically special education is an entitlement, right? So when students are enrolled in a public school system and they're receiving special education services, they are entitled to the supports and services that are outlined in their IEP. When you exit and you go out into the adult world, whether it's to college and you need disability related services, or you go into adult services, the level of services definitely changes, right? If you take your cognitive assessment to a disability office at a college, they may not give you the same accommodations that you received under your IEP. And as well as when you go to DDS, you have like your transition coordinator, but you're not entitled to everything, right? You have to continue to work with them and keep up conversations, no matter what programming you've decided to go through, whether your child's going to do like agency with choice, self-direction and agency with choice. Self-direction is like completely family oriented. Agency with choice, you should have a job coach almost. So we definitely are more than happy. We would do a parents' night about that to give information about that. I think that's imperative that we get the information out to families so that when your child is coming of the age that you are exploring adult services, we can like really outline what happens. And we have a great relationship with our MRC as well as DDS partners, and we can have them come so we can all explain that to as many people in the Boston Public Schools community as possible. How was that, Jack?
Thank you. I am going to jump to Orsi on just because you had your hand up the last cycle and we lost you. So I'm asking you to unmute again. So hopefully you are able to. Okay. Orbasion, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. If for some reason you're unable to unmute, if you could put the question or concern in the chat, that would be helpful so we can make sure your concern is addressed, or if you need to go in a breakout room with one of the ADs to discuss a particular child's issue. Then we'll answer question before we will move on to Partners for Youth with Disabilities. WD?
Hi, I like Jeff shared that concern. My child recently graduated last year from the wonderful program at Wentworth and Strive under Miss Jackson Tannen advisement. And, you know, again, like he said, there are certain services put in place, but as we look at post-secondary, my concern for families and just in terms of a general consensus was that if it wasn't for COVID, he wouldn't have received his actual diploma based on his portfolio. So I have other children coming up in BPS, which is why I joined this meeting. So how do we know per the IEP, or who do we talk to, or how do we have an understanding if they're going to receive a certificate or an actual diploma? Because that was very important for my family to have a diploma. And they was like, no, it's a certificate. And if it wasn't for COVID and certain things, he got a great job, a federal job. But at the end of the day, how do we navigate? So the post-secondary, you know, DDS is there, or DMH, and, you know, all those questions they ask. But, you know, like you said, once you graduate, it's a privilege. You know, you're no longer a BPS student. So what can we do, or who do we reach out to? Again, Miss Jackson Tatum is awesome. She helps where she can, but what I share Jeff's concern and look forward to that future symposium or forum where you can help families like myself.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime parents find that there is a need for information around transition, any topic, I'm more than happy. We've run series all year long and they've been very highly attended. So the more information that you have about transition enables you to be at the IEP team as your child. You are your child's first and best advocate. And I want you to have all the information you need to be able to have these conversations. So if there's any topics that people would like for us to go over in a parents' night, I'm more than happy to do that. I'll put my email in the chat and you can reach out to me.
Thank you very much. And if anyone, once again, you would like to go in a breakout room, Marcia, or you want to request a particular AD in a breakout room to answer questions, please let us know in the chat, because there are individuals in the breakout room with some particular questions on ESY and different things. You are more than welcome to meet with them for the individual student questions too. So next, because we are going to have to transition, we have two speakers before our elections. Mary, Mary, you know, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not even gonna try your last name because I already feel tongue twisted tonight. From Partners for Youth with Disabilities will be our next presenter. So take it away, Mary.
Great, and that's Krathwohl, but I don't expect anyone to know it. So let me just pull up the slideshow so that all of you can see it. Okay. All right, that should. All right, well, thank you for having me. My name is Mary, and I'm a career readiness program coordinator with Partners for Youth with Disabilities. We're based out of Somerville, Mass, but we are doing a lot of virtual and in-person work around Massachusetts and in the Boston Public Schools. So I'm happy to be here today. Okay. PYD is an organization with the mission to make the world a more inclusive place where young people with disabilities can live with dignity and pride in who they are and to lead self-determined lives filled with purpose. To make this happen, we build the skills and abilities of young people with disabilities and increase the inclusivity of workplaces, organizations, and communities. So we are one of the vendor programs that Marcia was speaking to. We have a YEP partnership and a PREETS, which I will go into. We have been around the area since 1985, and we have several programs depending on your young person's interests. So we have one-to-one mentoring, where a youth can be matched with the mentor in the community and do excursions. We have group mentoring and online mentoring. We also have career readiness training and disability inclusion trainings. I will put our website and my email in the chat. Okay. All right, so the Career Readiness Program is a job readiness program, and we're currently serving over 150 youth annually, but we have been growing, which is exciting. And our goal is to address barriers to employment with a 3-tiered curriculum using academic learning, real-world experiences, and mentoring. And we use universal design for learning to educate students. Teachers are trained in this so that excuse me, classes, anybody can show up to a class who is eligible for our program and feel like they can access the material. We're currently in 7+ Boston public school classrooms, and we also have a community after school program that's currently virtual. And so there's plenty of ways to get involved. Okay. For our in-school programming, we have 7 different units that we cover. So your students might be receiving this programming already. We have Intro to Career Readiness, Steps to Finding a Job, Self-Care, and Stress Management, which is important in the workplace, Career Soft Skills, Self-Advocacy, Financial Literacy, and Entrepreneurship. And folks involved in our program, the teachers in Boston Public Schools, receive lessons from our program, including teacher guides, student workbooks. We have vocabulary lists and several media resources available for students. Okay. PREX is another main program of ours. It stands for Pre-Employment Transition Services. And our students, similar to other programming mentioned tonight, all have an IEP 504 or a documented disability. And through our workshops, we introduce students to skills that they'll need and other things like a resume and where to look for a job, how to apply for a job. And we're funded by the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission. So our services are free to you. Some of the work we do in career readiness includes focusing on students' strengths and abilities, uncovering what type of work students are interested in and what their options are through a series of personality tests, getting to know students, introducing them to a wide variety of options for them to see what might stick. We support discovering what kind of education or training is needed to reach their job goals. We also find resources and tips to guide students and support ideas for next steps. The 5 components that we offer year-round are work readiness training, job exploration counseling, self-advocacy, work-based learning, and post-secondary education. So this includes professional introductions, ways to find a job, how to write a resume, and even practicing mock interviews. We recently did a mock interview with Salesforce company, and we have different business partners, so your youth can get a real life experience. We have job exploration counseling using some online platforms, and we have pre-ET specialists who support students to learn more about what might be a good fit for them and match. Our work-based learning experiences include a virtual job shadow platform that has access to over 1,000 videos with frequently asked questions, future job prospects, what education is needed in a really interactive way. And we also have business partners come and do workshops with us where students can directly ask them questions. In self-advocacy, students will learn how to speak up for yourself, understand your rights as a worker, and how to ask for support on the job, like requesting accommodations, and whether, the pros and cons of disclosing a disability. Our post-secondary education workshops focus on some options outside of high school, including learning about trade school and other paths. So it's quite varied. All right. So the requirements are that young folks are residents of the greater Boston area between the ages of 14 to 22 with a documented disability, and they must attend high school or post-secondary programming. If you'd like to sign up, you can email me and I'll put my contact information in the chat as well. To enroll, we ask that you submit a consent form, and then
Hey, Bill, how
we'll
are
have
you?
your contact information to have a
No,
parent
no dinner, I'm on.
meeting together. Okay, thank you so much. And if there are any questions, please let me know.
Now, Mary, there you go. That was very informative. Thank you. So if anyone has any questions for Mary, please feel free to raise your hand. I see a question. It says, is it going to Spanish, please? Was that addressed with Hilda? Is she looking to ask the question from the Spanish channel, or just getting to the Spanish interpretation? But right now, I don't see any hands raised. What is the minimum age, especially the one-to-one coaching? Mary, was it the minimum age 14?
Yeah, for our career readiness programming, the minimum age is 14. And for our mentoring, it is a little bit different, actually. I almost want to say the group mentoring or the one-on-one can start as young as 6, but I'd have to check the website again. We have several different departments, and then the online learning platform, for example, is welcome to 18 to 26. So we have a couple of different ways for different age groups to get connected to our services, but the career focus is really for transition aged youth.
And if they reached out to you, you'd be able to help them direct to the particular person who may be covering that category, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So we have a mentoring department, and we also have an access to theater program. So if your youth are looking for summer arts activities, you can find that on our website as well.
And Mary, can you just clarify? I know for pre-ETs, you have to be 14 and in grade 9. So for the other programming, can you be 14 and in 8th grade? Because that sometimes people ask for services and their child is still in middle school. So we just want to make sure we're very clear.
Of course, yeah, that is something we totally understand is a current limitation. For whatever reason, it is 9th grade, even though we recognize there are 14-year-olds in 8th grade.
Thanks.
Thank you. And that's an excellent question that's come up actually frequently. The 8th grade is that of 14, yes. So WD, I'm going to unmute you. Go for it.
Hi, my question is, do you work in conjunction with, or are you similar to TIL or say VinFin? So like if a person's working with one service, would they still be able to reach out to you? And is it available for 12th grade students, graduating 12th grade students to help with their career path?
Yes, so that's a great question. As long as the student is under age 24 and has a documented disability, they can attend our workshops. And we also do have some internships. So I just worked with an intern who's a college student. So you can definitely be outside of high school. And could you repeat that first question, please?
It was, do you work with TIL and VinFin, the other agencies? Can they work in collaboration?
Yeah, so I'd have to check, but I believe you could receive funding from more than one. We do often, after students have worked with our program, we can refer them to MRC, like VR services. So I don't think that it's a limitation but I can find out. I haven't heard anything otherwise. So we don't do on-the-job coaching. Our workshops are like after school programming. So it's more like an extracurricular or a club that they could join.
Thank you. And Jack?
That sounds like an amazing program. I see in chat you've got M. Krathwohl at pyd.org. I also noticed there was an R. Cronin at pyd.org.
Yeah, so R. Cronin, both emails work. I'm M. Krathwohl, and R. Cronin is my is the program manager. So
Okay.
we both do outreach. She couldn't make it tonight.
Okay, that's fine. And my other question, actually, WD addressed my other question about working with other agencies. So thank you. Thank you. That sounds like a fantastic program.
Thank you. I hope to receive some intakes and learn and get to know your students.
Thank you very much. And the last speaker that we have tonight is Erik Berg from the BTU, who's going to be sharing some of what the BTU is working on, also with inclusion, et cetera. So Erik, the floor is yours. You're a co-host, so if there's anything you'd like to share, that's available.
All right, great. Thank you. First of all, thank you all for having me. I'm really happy to be here. I know a few of you, many of you, most of you I don't. Just a few words. I'm currently the vice president of the Boston Teachers Union after 25 years teaching first and second grade, 19 years in the Boston Public Schools. I'm the parent of 2 kids who attended BPS, one of whom had an IEP. So I'm familiar with the special education system as a parent, as a teacher, and now as a union leader. And so I just want to thank you for inviting me and letting me take some time to share with you the BTU's ideas for improving special education services for our kids in BPS. And I guess I want to start by saying, obviously, there's been a lot in the media in recent weeks about the Boston Public Schools in general and about special education programming in particular, particularly as it touches on the question of receivership, whether the state should put BPS in receivership. And I think our members and the BTU certainly recognize that the provision of services for students with disabilities in BPS is not, and for a long time has not been, what it should be. One of the, I would say, most important issues for our members has been improving services, particularly in inclusionary environments, in the general education environment for all students, but doing so in a way that is adequately staffed and provides the kind of supports that kids need to be successful and have their needs met in the general education environment. And I think our members recognize, because really it's on them day after day to do what is practically impossible. And it's a burden, and it takes a lot out of our members to know that they're given their all, and it's not always what it should be. So I first want to sort of recognize that we do agree that there are things that could be improved. We, by the same token, we think that there are certain things that are happening in our schools that are good, and we can build on the strengths we have and hopefully create programming that meets kids' needs better. And I would like to, if I can, share my screen with, so we are currently negotiating a new contract with the Boston Public Schools, the sort of set of guidelines that governs working conditions for teachers and paraprofessionals and speech pathologists and counselors and so forth in BPS. And chief among our contract proposals are things that basically improve special education programming, largely, I think, by adding staff and reconfiguring programs to better meet the needs of students. So I'm going to share with you now, if that's all right, what our proposals are to the BTU, or to the BPS, sorry, in our contract. And I also am going to, before I do that, sorry, I created a Google form and I haven't tested it. I just did it while I was on here, and I want to put that in the chat. So if you have thoughts, because we really want to hear from you, from families, about your thoughts on our proposals and things that are lacking, things that are missing, and so forth. So I'm going to put a link in the chat, and hopefully it works. If it doesn't work, let me know. I don't know that I'll be able to fix it in.
It says you need permission to be viewed by the owner. Yeah, the form it can only be viewed by users in your organization. So it's set to, it must be just set to @BTU people.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll try and fix that, but I think I need to talk first. I can only do so much multitasking, unfortunately, but I will try and fix that at the end, okay? There we go. So just to take you through our proposals around special education, first of all, is that we think we need to have a shared and common definition of what inclusion means, and to have some models of inclusion that are understandable and consistent. Right now, it's haphazard. It's dependent, frankly, in some cases, on the strength and connections of a school leader, on the history of the school, and lots of very non-transparent factors. So we really think that we need to have a shared and agreed upon definition of what it means to be an inclusion class in Boston Public Schools, what that looks like, what the staffing models are, and so forth. Number two, I think, is really the core of our proposals. And this is something we've been advocating for years, unsuccessfully. And as it's written, it's not very understandable. So I want to try and flesh it out. As I think many of you know, right now, the general model of including students with disabilities in the general education environment in Boston Public Schools is to have a teacher, a single teacher, usually with a paraprofessional, and that teacher has 2 or possibly 3 licenses. And they are asked to be the general education teacher of record, to provide the specialized instruction required by kids' IEPs, and often to provide ESL services to English learners also. And we have some really talented educators in our school system who have worked very hard to attain these 2 or 3 licenses, but they're being asked to do the jobs of 3 people, and it's just not tenable. And we don't see anywhere else in Massachusetts that teachers being asked to do that. That typically in a general ed environment, there is a push in or pull out or combination thereof, or co-teacher who is the special education provider, and that's what we're seeking. Now, we're not necessarily saying that teachers can't have or shouldn't have multiple licenses. We actually think that's probably a great thing, but that they are not the sole service provider for kids with disabilities and English learners and the general education students. Our third is that special education providers have time built into their schedule to do testing, to do meetings, to do progress reports, to do all of the paperwork that goes with the job. And right now they're asked to do that catch as catch can, and often it is done, long hours into the evenings, weekends, and so forth. And we think that ought to be built into the day. And if we have 2 teachers in inclusion classrooms, that will be easier to provide. We'd like new directives within special education, but any new directive, frankly, to have time to learn about them, to have professional development for teachers before the program is rolled out, and feedback before new things are rolled out. That could be a software program, it could be instructional technology, it could be curriculum. That when there is consultation time on the A grid of an IEP, that time be provided. So what happens now is the related service provider, the ABA, the speech therapist, what have you, often just comes into your classroom while you're teaching and says, oh, can we talk about so-and-so? And you don't have that dedicated time that you really need to have a back and forth about how best to meet that child's needs. That there be additional professional development for what we see as the best model, which is a co-teaching model of inclusion. And that, again, similar to the consult time, that there be shared common planning time for co-teachers along with the paraprofessionals they work with related service providers and others, so that they can plan to meet the needs of all the students in the classroom. Again, rather than doing it haphazardly passing by in the hall. It doesn't give the focused attention that people need to work well together in service to students and their IEPs. And if there are models that aren't working, there be some sort of process to appeal that. And we're not talking about, by the way, the IEP process. That obviously exists, and that's there for individual students. But if a teacher or perhaps families at the school level, there's a program model and it's not working, there'd be some way to sort of, somewhere to take that can look at it and see if there could be a better model. Number 9 is really important. And I think anyone who teaches in BPS sees the need for this, that we have additional staff specifically for students who are multilingual learners and have a learning disability or a disability to meet their needs, because those students often are betwixt and between and don't get the necessary supports that their particular language ability and English ability and disability require. We think it's important to maintain a virtual video conferencing option, a Zoom option for IEP meetings, by the way, at the parent's discretion. We would never, obviously, I think people are entitled to and ought to have access to an in-person meeting if they wish it. But if one of the things that our members have found is that through COVID, families' ability to attend and participate in IEP meetings has really dramatically increased. And we think that ought to be maintained at the family's option. That all specialist classes, art, music, drama, PE, and so forth, will have a para assigned if there's a para assigned to the general education classroom. Often those classrooms are really great opportunities for kids to be included, but they're also opportunities where sometimes the structures are a little looser and kids may need even more support. And what they end up getting is less, and it leads to, I think, a lack of learning in some of those important and more, I guess, attractive content areas than the general academic areas. And that we have clear and age-appropriate inclusion class size limits, taking into account the needs of the students. So, we don't have necessarily numbers here, but right now we have some classes that are, especially at the lower grades, that are inclusion classes with kids with pretty significant needs that are only 2 students smaller than a general education class with no additional staffing. And how educators are expected to meet the needs of all those kids. We think it's again, they're being asked to do the near impossible. And finally, additional reading specialists or other interventionists to support struggling readers. And that would include students who don't have an IEP necessarily, but I think intervening early, and our members find that intervening early, and if need be, it might even be late, right? If there are kids who are struggling in middle school with reading, sometimes having a trained reading specialist or other interventionist can be an effective intervention for kids with or without an IEP. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I will open it up.
Thank you, Erik. I appreciate it, because I know we only were able to give you 10 minutes in this block of time just because of having to try to squeeze it in so we could hear some of the work and the acts that BTU is working for. So we really thank you for fitting this in. We want to make sure we do get to our elections also.
Sure.
You're going to be working on the form so that you're going to change
I'm
the setting,
doing
right?
it right now. I'm in settings. The problem is,
okay. So while Erik is working on that, and if anyone has questions for Erik or wants to see how they can become more involved with certain concerns, please feel free to put it in the chat and Erik will be able to answer that.
And if someone,
going to need, go ahead.
If someone could just try that form now, because I think I just
can refresh it and see what happens.
I took off that setting, so that might.
It actually did. It works now. Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay. So if you do have thoughts, we'd really, really love to hear them about what you just heard or additional things that are missing, and we will pass them on to our negotiating team.
Thank you so much, Erik. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.